Welcome to Apex Esports League. I'm JT, and tonight I'm bringing you the fourth round of the Apex Esports League V8 Supercars Championship. Of course, that is on Project Cars 2 for the PS4/5. And tonight's round is the Hockenheim GP, so it's going to be some pretty intense, exciting racing at the Hockenheim. So tonight is the similar session. We have the two sessions tonight. In round 4, we start with a 15-minute practice. Weather is heavy cloud. Then we have 15 minutes qualifying. Weather is medium cloud. The sprint race is 12 laps. Weather is heavy cloud with no mandatory pit. We have about a 9-minute break and then head into session 2 where we have 15 minutes qualifying. Weather is overcast. And then the main race is 22 laps. Weather is overcast to heavy cloud with a mandatory pit. And then after the third round, we had a 0-1-43 come through with a championship lead, only just leading ahead of Sami by 12 points, so sitting very close. So of course, Sami is sitting on 574 points, and Rooney isn't too far behind with 551 points. So the sprint race last week, we saw a 0 actually come through with a clean sweep, which we haven't seen for quite a while. So taking pole, victory and fastest lap for the sprint race. And then also following suit into the second race at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya GP. So then over to the track details. Of course, Germany for the Hockenheim GP. The track is 4.57 kilometres long. There are 16 turns. We're going to be seeing a fair bit of passing probably going on in Sector 1 and Sector 3. It is a still fairly tricky little section onto the the last couple of corners of Sector 2. We've got 14 cars on the grid. We've been having a few connection issues for some of the drivers, with a few of them disconnecting in the lobby as we were starting off. Hopefully they don't run into as much trouble in the session. We are missing Corby tonight. And then Rooney is also not able to be in, but he may be able to make it in for the second session. And Rooney is coming third in the championship with 551 points. That'll be a good opportunity if he isn't able to make it in for the others following behind. So Philly Minelli's in 4th position with 393 points. Not too far behind him is Mr. D-Train Barbado with 377 points. So a good result in the first race. Could start bumping them up towards Rooney's points score and potentially start taking away the top positions. Sami having some bad luck last week, but a brilliant recovery. Managed to recover a decent amount of positions to maintain a fairly close position from a 0, as a 0 was having a blistering quick round 3. Let's make our way through the list. So hopefully is fine for his connection issues. Did disconnect a couple of times in the lobby beforehand. Well, that just looks like Killer going off into the kitty litter. Yeah, on the 350 we did miss him last week, so he's been able to make it back this week. Good to see him back out on track with the guys. Sami, he was going off to a brilliant start to the championship, maintaining a good lead, and was a good potential to perhaps take his first championship win, and he's not out of the competition yet. It is very close, only to be 12 points coming into round 4, so if he has a pretty good solid round tonight, it will suit him very well heading into the final round next week, being at Bathurst, and that is worth the big points. We just have the one final race as well. Pretzelnator. Pretzel is currently coming 10th in the championship with 281 points. Finished 8th in the sprint race last week and 9th in the main race. Qualified fairly similar as well. Killers just brought that in. Doggy Daddy, who did debut with us for this series. He's currently sitting in 14th position for the championship. He's got 136 points on the board. D-Train, who is also towards the top of that leaderboard as well. Philly and Rooney being the closest competitors for the position on the standings board. With Rooney possibly not being in it for the sprint race. If you can get a good solid result in the first race, it's going to be a good advantage heading into race 2 tonight. T-Rex. T-Rex is currently coming 9th in the championship. He's got 306 points. Just ahead of him is Mick Cliff on 339 points. Pretzel Nader is about 25 points behind. The first time's coming through on the board. Our championship leader Azuro coming in with a 136.3. I know in the chat last week we were talking about world record times, so we saw some blisteringly quick lap times. We had Azuro setting 141s in the race, and I think it was a 138 in the qualifying from memory. And then you guys did jump on and actually look up what the fastest time was in the time trials for Project Cars 2, and it was actually a world record time. So after mentioning that to Azuro, he did actually get out and start doing the time trials during the week. So if you do have him on your friends list for this, or if you just go on to Project Cars 2, you'll actually see Azuro's name at the top for the world record fastest time for Barcelona. He did say it was actually much more difficult to try and do with the perfect conditions that the time trial gives, considering it was for him to be setting in much different conditions. So kudos to Azuro for going out and setting that. So that is the car that we are seeing in our races when we're getting world record times. So it's spectacular to see. And generally, thanks for joining us. And as Anomal is there as well. The mix into the pits. What haven't we seen through yet? Coco Dog last week in the sprint race, he ended up coming 6th after qualifying 9th. And the same again in the main race as well. So having a pretty good run. Dirty Monkey is currently 13th in the championship. Gallon is just ahead of him. It's Dirty sitting on 194 points. Gallon is on 240. Simo Simsel is just up ahead in 260 points as well, so dropping down on that leaderboard after missing last week's round. If you're joining us for the stream and you haven't done so yet, don't forget to hit that follow button. It's been lovely to see us grow just in the last couple of weeks from down to, I think it was 90 something followers up to, I think, 112 when I looked today. So that's great support that we're seeing for the group and for our drivers, so thank you very much. And don't forget to get into that chat, say hello, let us know who you think is going to take pole position, win the race, and also have some fun with those sound effects controls as well. We'll jump on board for a lap with someone in a moment as well. So there's 7.5 minutes remaining of practice. I did realise last week I only ended up giving them 10 minutes going into the practice session. But I did make sure I triple checked that for them so they weren't short that 5 minutes of the practice. Yeah, still 2 people on controllers. So Nick Cliff on controller, and I think it is Dirty as well who's on the controller. And we will be trialling a winning drivers interview tonight as well, so be sure to stay tuned when we get to the results of the main race tonight. We will cross over to position 1 and position 2 of the main race, and then we'll discuss with them how they went in the round and the race. See is about to see from their perspective how things went, as we usually don't find out until I've gotten into the lobby halfway through and at the end to find out what went on. These will be able to be all a part of that fair bit of traffic building up there. Let's see if we can find someone who's close to setting, heading on to a lap. But Zero's coming through with some pretty quick times of 1:34.9. Sami's then following suit with 1:36.2. Sami is heading out on pit straight, so we might jump on board with a lap for him. We definitely know he's coming down into turn 2. Good fast sector. There's ample room on this track as well. Down into very sharp hairpin. A little bit slippery for Sami. Hopefully gets it under control. Definitely being out there on cold tyres. Good fast section here. Much sharper left-hand turn. Very cautious of that curb that runs off into second lot into another sharp. This is possibly where we'll see a lot of time gained. Drivers can really perfect that section of the track, they're going to have quite a big advantage. Very slippery out there, and there's not much room on this section of the track. This is where things get very tight, and it is the more technical section of the track. So for those that are much quicker through there, there's not going to be much room to be able to get around. In the last corners, be very cautious of that inside curb. It is very slippery. And then is a lap around the Hockenheim. What a slide for Sami. So he's currently 1.2 seconds off Zero's quickest time. Speedo. Running a much lighter fuel load than what we just saw on board with Sami. The third quickest time out there is Philly. He's out 0.6 off of Sami's time. Ooh, very slippery out there on that curb. Let's see, that's where we saw Killer run off early on in the session. It's going to be a very easy one to do so, and there's already a fair bit of debris where drivers have gone off in the kitty litter and brought it back out on track. Over to T-Rex, coming in with the 6th quickest time. It's Pretzel and Cocoa Dog just ahead of him. This is pit straight potentially. I mean, that's been after. Mick tucking in behind someone. Oh, I'm not sure if he was overcorrecting there. Looks like there was a little bit of slip. Probably getting a little bit of aero wash, tucking in behind. Not sure whose car that is. I think we've got 3 green cars out there. Oh, he locks that up, trying to make that hairpin. That's Gallon that Mick Cliff just got around. Gallon now tucking in behind Mick. Has taken a hit. Fair few scrapes up the side, and the bonnet is buckled on that car. broad slide and into the pits as well. Benny in place for a spin out. To Steph. Steph's currently coming 16th in the championship. She's got 117 points. She did miss a round as well, and she did suffer a disconnect in one of the races, so missing out on some valuable points. Currently 13.8 seconds separating the field. And Zero is the only one to get into the 134s. It's pretty tight. He's 1.3 seconds off that pace. Killer is currently 17th in the championship. It's about 27 points behind Steph. Got Vera and Kakadu behind him. They're not seeing much movement going on in the boards. I know Mick Cliff has bumped Coco Dog down a spot. He's just brought that in. There's 30 seconds remaining of practice before we head into the qualifying for race 1. T-Rex doing quite well with a 138. Our first half of the field is only 3.5 seconds difference. Zero's just brought the car in as well, and his practice complete. There's 65 seconds remaining for them to complete their final laps. Big Gallon wrapping it up. Oh, a big broad slide. I think that's T-Rex in the background having a bit of fun at the conclusion. Oh, Simo goes for a slide as well. Locked it up on that corner where we've seen a few run off. It's going to be the tricky corner of the track. Probably going to see a few incidents go on throughout the course of tonight. Train's still out on track. He's managed a 138.6. He's 0.2 difference off of T-Rex's time. Gets that car across, and there we have results for the practice session. For Zero being the only driver to get into the 134 mark, of 134.8, seeing some pretty tight times in Sector 3 and Sector 1. A bit of variance going on through Sector 2, so it will probably be a lot of passes going on in Sector 2, so if drivers can perfect that section is going to be a big advantage. So heading over now into the 15 minutes of qualifying. Drivers do receive points in the championship for qualifying positions, so it is a very important part of the round. There is 25 points up for grabs. Oh, a bit of lag going on. I think that was Killer's car. It's probably going to be showing a fair bit of damage. That car looked like he was clipping into the wall. Yeah, his car's all showing buckled, as well as the car out ahead. I think that's Philly's car. There's Philly and Killer's car looking all damaged. That is just as the game is starting to sync up to the start of the session. When they do quickly get out on track, it takes a while as it loads up all the 14 drivers, and the game will actually think they're making more contact, but there'll be no performance impact to the cars at all. It is only visual. Let us know if you think it will be a Zero coming in with a pole position. I think we had, it was Jeffries last week, make the prediction of a Zero for a clean sweep, and he did. So it was a pretty good prediction. I don't think we'd had a clean, actually no, I did actually go through and check, so we haven't had a clean sweep in the V8 Supercars for Project Cars. That was the first time done. It was well done to Azura, and even his car is, well, most cars are actually all looking very battle worn already. Our drivers are all competing for an Apex eSports League stubby cooler. Zero has had one of them already sent out to him, and he's got a couple of mugs as well. I'm pretty sure he's looking to get that added to his collection. Oh, who's that off in there? Is that... I think that's Dirty Monkey. Having a little bit of trouble with the car at the moment. A little bit of... not sure if that's a little bit of latency that's going on. Dirty does do it from controller, so sometimes the little sharper adjustments you see is just the controller steering. After the V8s, we are running the Group A touring cars, and it is actually a team championship as well. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what sort of strategies we see develop with their teammates as well. And it will be quite exciting to see a team leaderboard as well as the Drivers' Championship leaderboard. And then I did just recently add to the schedule as well. After the Group A touring cars, we will be running the RSO1 trophies. It'll be another one-make series, and those cars are a lot of fun to drive. We should see some good, intense racing. Yeah, we could hear the noise in the background in the lobby with Dirty Monkey Jenna Lee. It was a fair bit of noise going on in the background on his mic. You could hear the rain. It was that torrential. He said he was copying quite a good storm. Hopefully he doesn't get any disconnect issues. A bit of run off onto the outside there for Killer. Coca Dogs just brought that in. Zero's come through straight up with a 135.7. We saw a 134 in the practice session. Zero struggling with that hairpin. It is going to get a lot of drivers. It is quite a tricky one. It is rather sharp. Turning circles in these things aren't as spectacular, and then with the very long hairpin, looking for that exit line is quite difficult. Sure if the drivers use the look into the corner feature at all, but if you are looking at just a fixed cockpit view, it does make it even more difficult, as you lose that advantage of being able to look into a corner. Yeah, that's right. Look out for Team Vazmac for the next series. They've already been a heap of hashtags been thrown in for that, so it's quite exciting. Might be able to see Team Vazmac take out the team championship. That would be some good stuff to see. Not sure who that is. If that Gallon at the back being passed by Azuro. We've got Nick Cliff come through with quickest time. Philly's set a 136.4. He's only 1.5 seconds. Oh, Gallon's just bumped up into third position. With our stubby cools as well, I have actually set aside one. I'm going to run a competition for our viewers, so if we can get some more predictions going, there'll be one round we'll put up, and if you can actually get the prediction right, we'll organise to send out an Apex eSports League stubby cooler. So I'll work out the details for the competition for that, so stay tuned. You can see on our social media links down underneath, or sorry, at the bottom of the stream. Our Facebook page, you can follow all our results, standings, incident reports, and then of course the competition details will be all there once I get it sorted. Coca Dog coming through with 7th quickest time so far. He's 3.7 seconds off the Zeros. So Zeros come through for 1:34.9. I think he did a 1:34.8 in practice. And he's parked that car up. Not sure if he's going to get it back out. Or he is. He's heading back out. We weren't able to see anyone match a 1:34 in the practice. Can someone come through and potentially steal away a pole position? Going to have a much stronger result in qualifying. Very different line for that hairpin. Gallen managing to stay out quite wide. I'm not sure who that is at the back there, just taking, I think it might have been Steph, taking out those traffic cones around the hairpin. Traffic cones usually take a fair bit of thrashing on the track. Amazing, just seeing what happens to them in some of the replays that I've had to go back through and watch, and seeing them actually be thrown for the entire length of a track straight. So it's quite amusing. Doggy Daddy in with a 1:52. Pace a little bit off from the practice session. Barmy still not getting a time on the board. He's bumped up now. He's just taking it easy. That's a pretty good time, 1:36.462. There's not much difference between him and Philly. Philly's got, 36.455. That's only 0.007 difference between the two. That is very tight. Saw some pretty quick pace from Philly last week, and then minor mistake early on in the race, seeing him going off wide and then spun back out on track, taking a very heavy hit, but even so he managed to claw back a few positions. So hopefully he has some better luck in tonight's round. Zero still in with the 1:34. In with 5th quickest time. I think that was Dirty. That's just, no, sorry, not Dirty. Who's in the darker yellow car? That's T-Rex, I think. Not sure where he vanished off to. No, he's brought that back into the pits. Jeffrey is predicting in another clean sweep for a 0. And pull off 2 clean sweeps in the V8 Supercars in a row. That would be a spectacular feat. He has had the longest running victory streak as well. A little bit slippery for Coco Dog. Seeing a fair bit of rubber put down on around that corner. That's a fair bit of tyre slip as they're going around. About 17 seconds separating the full field. The first 13, only 9.4 seconds separated. We had 3.5 seconds separating our top 7 in the practice, and we're now seeing only 2.3 seconds separating the first 7. So that is a much stronger result in the qualifying, putting down a lot more pace. Weather conditions did vary slightly. We started game session time 9 AM in the practice. Weather was heavy cloud. Game session time for qualifying started at 10 AM. Weather is medium cloud cover. So there is an increase in track temperatures. A little bit slippery for Philly. See, even for our top end drivers, finding that corner very tricky. Not much difference in the times between Sami and Philly. Not improving on that yet. If they can shave off a couple of seconds, they will steal that pole position away from a 0. Philly bringing that car in. He just pulled over as Gallen went past. should be enough time for Philly to get out there and get another timed lap on. So there's 3.5 minutes remaining of the session. Mick doing very well with a 1:36.849. Gallen's only 0.3 of a second quicker than him. Mick's doing this from controller, so that's spectacular to see. If you are new to Apex Esports League streams, we do broadcast Project Cars 2 races every Thursday night, 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. And then we also are currently broadcasting iRacing on Monday nights, same time. That's Coca Dog just coming out of the pits at the moment as Pretzelnator's flying past. T-Rex currently in 7th. There is plenty of racing action by hitting that follow button. You will be notified when we go live for Mondays and Thursdays. Dog out on coal tyres at the moment. We did just see him come out of the pits. Zeros. Just brought that car in, that'll probably be it for him for qualifying. By the time he gets out and gets in a good hot lap, not going to be able to better it, but we didn't see anyone get in a 1:34 yet besides a 0. So with a time like that, it is a good chance if he takes victory and maintains that pole position. He's probably going to have some pretty good race pace. And he definitely does have that if he gets out in front. If he manages to get away from a good pole position and keep that lead, we'll probably see a potential start to a clean sweep. So referees may be on the ball for his prediction. But he's not going to easily get away. Philly and Sami and also Gallen. Actually, even Nick, they're all very tight. There's not much between them. That's half a second separating position 2 to position 6. So there will be a battle on for the race win for sure. Beth currently in qualifying 12th position. Killer and Doggy Daddy has brought the car in. That'll be it for them for this session. There's only 34 seconds remaining. Pushing the limits of that very narrow section of track. A little bit of steering correction. Very nice line. Very easy on the throttle as he powers through. This improve his time. He's got a 1:36.455 to beat. No, he doesn't better that time. Not sure if Gallen's still on for a hot lap. There's an opportunity to move up a couple of spots. There's not much he has to shave off to gain a position for the race start. There's 90 seconds remaining to get the last laps done. Got 6 cars still out on track. Navigating the chicanes rather well. Coming down to last corner. No, that's not looking at the right section. No, that was the last corner in sector 2. That would be a better description. Okay, dog. Not sure if he'll get time to wrap it up. So Gallen making himself familiar with pit entry. Where is Mick currently setting up? He's not going to have enough time to actually finish that up. So I think once T-Rex crosses the line, that'll be it. Oh, that's just cost him for this. Unfortunate for that lap. Hopefully it Wasn't the pit entry? No, it wasn't. He's not going to get enough time to get across the line, so it's probably Okay Dog coming up to be able to do it. Will he have enough time to cross the line? He's already probably been around. He's well and truly past. The session ends when there's not enough time for them to get across. There we have the results for qualifying for session 1 of round 4. We have 0143 taking pole position, followed by Philly, Sami, Gallon, Coco, Mickcliffe, Pretzelator, T-Rex, D-Train, Dirty Monkey, Simo Simsel, Steph, Killer, and Doggy Daddy. So over into the start of race 1 for round 4. Drivers have a couple of minutes just to get their cars ready for the race. We have got that right-hand turn for turn 1. Zero can get off to a very quick start in a very good position for a good fast first corner. Billy's going to have to get away very quickly to try and dominate a strong position coming into turn 1. We have Sami starting in behind Azuro. Sami playing quite cautious at the grid start after having to cop a drive-through penalty for a jump start a couple of rounds ago. But Sami before that was getting off to some blisteringly quick starts. Here we are, we have all syncing up. Countdown for the start of round 4. And where the lights are green, and it's a pretty good start for Azuro. A little bit of smoke going from the rear of Azuro's car. Philly's getting up pretty quick. Oh, it's a little bit of contact. That's a big push and a slide, and I think Philly's just rolled as well. That's going to be utter chaos. Similar start to last week's round. Philly had a slide and then got hit, but he didn't get flipped like he did last time, but he did get up onto 2 wheels. Pretzel's taken quite a big hit. That's going to be a devastating start for Azuro. So that was Philly getting up in alongside of Azuro. I don't think he was far enough along to actually own track position. Will be an interesting one to review. Looks like Coco Dog's going to almost had the opportunity to go for an inside pass around the hairpin on Gallon. Oh, and there's some chaos going on in the back. I think that is Steph's just made contact. It may have been with Killer. This track is very tight. There is not much room. There's only a few sections of track. Oh, and that is Philly looking to try and make his way back up. Just locked it up. That unfortunate incident between Philly and Azuro, very beneficial for Sami. He's going with only a 12-point lead in the championship. If Azuro and Philly can't climb back up through the grid and get towards that top end by the next 11 laps, that's going to be a good advantage for Sami to start to put a little bit of a lead on the others. Losing a bit of pace. Coco Dog really looking to get around. He's being able to pull away, so he's got about 1.4 seconds over Gallon. You can see Coco Dog and Gallon in the practice and qualifying as well. doing a little bit of swapping. Oh, Coco Dog goes it for a nice inside line on the hairpin. Will there be a switch back with Gallen as he stayed wide? There they are side by side. He doesn't get up far enough to be able to own the position into the next corner. Hey Weaver, thanks for joining us. Yeah, it would be good to see Sami Gallen at the 1-2. See just how, Philly, he must be definitely dealing with a fair bit of damage. The car doesn't seem to be wanting to handle very nicely. Zero also climbing back up, but he is pulling away from Philly. I think Philly, having been turned around and then being T-boned, probably taking a fair bit of performance impacting damage to that car. So Zero's probably going to be able to claim a few more positions, I would assume. I think Cliff is starting to close in on Coco Dog. Coco Dog's had a few goes to try and get around Gallen, and that's dropped him back a little bit, so now he's going to have some pressure from Mick Cliff. Getting some very weird timings on the board as well. Everyone's showing as minus. Well, now it's all just caught back up. So race leader Sami currently leading by 1.5 seconds. Dirty Monkey's just spun off. That's just not allowed a Zero to get back another position. That'll probably see Philly get around as well. Killer is closing on Simo. Pretzel, I think, also took damage in that lap 1 incident. Oh, locked for Mick Cliff. Coco Dog also runs off wide, so that allows Mick to move up into position 3. T-Rex is bringing up in position 5. He's not too far off these guys. He'll be closing in very soon. Gallen has fallen back from Sami by 2 seconds now. Quickest lap out there last set was at 1:38.055. I'm pretty sure that was Sami's time. Mick Cliff not too far off that at 1:38.4, so he's doing some very quick pace. Then Zero is also in with a 1:38.4. You can see why he's climbing back up the rungs. I'm not sure if Zero's just got past E-Tron. I think he did. Billy in the background there, still climbing up. He's managed to recover back into 8th position. Haven't gotten around Dirty Monkey. Mick Cliff is closing in on Gallen. Gallen going to have to look for some defensive lines. Very late turn in for Mick. Very nice line. Oh, a little bit slippery for Gallen. It's just cost him some speed. That's not enough for Mick to get around just yet. And see him looking to try and find an opening past Gallen. Just gone off. Not sure if she's just made contact with that tyre wall. And Killer still trying to close in on Simo. Dirty Monkey starting to close back on Philly. Dirty did run off wide, allowing Zero to get past before and then Philly to catch up. Gallen has pulled back away from Mick Cliff. Leading out by 3.9 seconds now. It's probably going to be pushed out to 4 seconds. He's very quick out there. 1:37.9 was his last lap. Other driver to match a 1:37 was a Zero with a 1:37.033. Dirty still looking to reclaim that position back away from Philly after that mistake before. Coco Dog's closing back in on Mick. A bit of tyre slip. Gallen gets away the quickest out of those three. Oh no, Mick has gone for the slide. He's nearly going to turn back on track. Manages to recover that nicely. Only just loses out positions to... Well, he's lost to Coco, T-Rex and Azuro. Azuro's moved back up into 5th position. He's got 10.5 seconds behind Sami. There's halfway to go. We didn't see him fall down to the back, so that's a very quick recovery. I think he did escape a fair bit of damage, so that was very lucky on his part. Azuro is currently 1 second behind T-Rex. Still bettering those times. He's come through for 1:38, 3:28. Him and Azuro both being of similar pace in the race. Azuro is the quickest out there. I think the fastest lap is definitely Azuro's time. That's 1:37.033. Next time is Sami for 1:37.9. Still not being able to close that gap in on Philly. Azuro really closing in on T-Rex now. T-Rex set a 1:39.8 last time around. Well, that's T-Rex that's just gone off wide. Giving that position out to Azuro. Be able to catch some ground after going for that little spin off track. Maybe able to catch up to T-Rex. Get back a position. We did see Mick get up into 3rd, so he's dropped down into 6th. Azuro has moved up into 4th position now. The pace that we're seeing here, if he was not caught up in that incident down into the first turns of lap 1, definitely would have been flying out ahead, as he's been consistently the quickest time out there. Sami is leading the race by 6 seconds currently. Let's see, following up behind Gallen is Coco Dog and Azuro. Azuro looking to probably get past Coco Dog very shortly. Cliff has quickly caught up to T-Rex as well. Very nice lines by all drivers. That's where we saw Mick spin out a couple of laps ago. T-Rex on the lap before, is that's where he went off wide and Azuro managed to get through. Well, you can see Azuro closing in on Coco Dog now. See him gauging Coco Dog, but Coco Dog is managing to keep some very strong pace, very different lines around that hairpin. We've seen a lot of drivers taking various lines. That curb. This is where things went wrong for Azuro and Philly at the start of the race. It's up alongside Coco and takes that position, so he's now moved up into 3rd. Gallen's a little bit ahead. It's lap 8 of 12. There's 4 laps remaining. Azuro showing very quick pace. There's not much difference between the pace between him and Sami. Last laps around for Sami was 138.615, 138.603. There's only 4 laps remaining of the race. At that rate, it's not going to be enough to close that 10.5 second gap. Plus, he does need to get around Gallen as well. Guys have been holding pretty close for most of the race. Mick, T-Rex and Coco Dog on very similar pace. Right up over that curve for Mick. That's a very nice line. Came through a lot quicker than T-Rex. Mick's doing some amazing pace around Hockenheim. Had a time second penalty being given to Simo. Bit of spacing for the rest of the field. Doggy Daddy in 14th position. Steph in 13th. Demo currently in 12th position. He's only a second behind Killer, so he could still have enough time to try and close in. Fair bit of difference between position 10 and 11th. Pretzel in 10th. Dirty in 9th position. Philly has climbed back up into 8th, but he is battling a heavily damaged car most likely. He did take a very big hit once he got up inside of a 0 at the start of the race. D-Train in 7th position. He's 8 seconds behind Mick Cliff, and the rest of the guys here are all battling it out for 4th position. And they are really struggling to try and get any ground on each other. They are very similar pace. I'd love to see sector times for these 3 guys. They would be very closely matched, I would assume. T-Rex in 5th position. Coco Dog doing well to still keep that gap away from T-Rex. And Gallen lost that position out to a 0. Didn't find him too much for it. It's lap 9 of 12. We'll look at these times last set for Azuro and Sami. Oh, Sami very slow that last lap. That was a 140.3. Just how quick this time is for Azuro. 139.5. Both being on a bit of a slower lap. I'm not sure if maybe they're starting to feel a little bit of tyre where with only 2 laps remaining. With only almost a second apart, 2 laps remaining. Even if they are 1 second difference, it's not going to be enough to lose that position to Azuro. However, the brilliant recovery by Azuro will mean he probably still be definitely in the lead for the championship, as Sami qualified 3rd. Azuro had that 12-point lead in the championship. And then gets a little bit more in qualifying points heading into the race. And then Sami finishing in 1st compared to 2nd, there won't be too much, and I think Azuro definitely has got the fastest lap bonus points, so that extra 10 points will potentially see Azuro still score more points in session 1 than Sami. Sami will need to follow through and have a really cracker of session 2 tonight. A couple of drivers with some post-race time penalties. Birdie now joining Simo. It's 10 seconds behind Sami. It's on lap 10. It's 2 laps to go. Gallen not getting... Oh, Azuro slips out. That's just cost him some time. I think he's... not sure if... he may have had a slowdown as well. I think there's some definitely... what is going on for Azuro? Oh, no, it's Doggy Daddy, sorry. In these same cars. The back markers being caught up. So that was a slip by Doggy Daddy. They are cars number 15 and 16. It did look like Azuro. This lap 11 is only He's also 9.2 seconds behind Sami. Unless something significantly goes wrong with Sami, he's definitely got the win. It's going to be very drastic to lose out at this point. Some potential passing going on. Coco Dog's gotten around T-Rex. T-Rex only getting around from that little mistake. All drivers starting to show a little bit slower pace at the moment. These tyres are probably well and truly scrubbed after 11 laps on this very technical track. T-Rex is going to have Mick Cliff sitting on his tail. Sorry, close. Well, not now. He did just go off. He dropped tyre off into the grass. That's just slowed him up. And runs wide on that corner. Looks like he's battling that car a little bit. Pretty sure those tyres are quite shot. Coming up to some more back markers. He's now catching up to Steph. He's gotten around Doggy Daddy. Steph moves over for him. Tommy has pushed out that lead to 10.4 seconds. That was down to about 9.5 seconds. He's on the final lap now. Don't think he's got anyone. He hasn't got anyone that he'll probably catch up to before he gets to the end of this lap. The 10.1 second lead is going to be ensuring victory for him. He has plenty of time to take it cautious. He doesn't need to try and push a blisteringly quick lap and risk losing at that race. A bit of lock in that rear for Gallen. Tyres probably definitely well had it now. That's right, he has held a very solid lead the whole time. Some very consistent laps. It'll be definitely an advantage if he can pull that off in the second race. And there we are, we have Sami just crossed the line, taking top of the podium. Well done, Sami. Here comes a 0 to cross in position 2. After being in the lead and then taken down to the back. Brilliant recovery. Gallen crosses in third position, followed by Coco Dog and T-Rex. Then Mick Cliff. D-Train not too far behind as well in 7th position. Good recovery for Philly as well. Going to do a little bit of a smoky across the line. Dirty follows up in 9th position. Philly did well to recover with that damaged car as well. Wasn't able to push as much out of their car as what we saw a 0 doing. He did take quite the hit. So Pretzel comes across in 10th position. In 11th, he's got a couple of seconds between him and Killer. This time penalty, and he's only got 1 second time penalty, so he needs to keep 1 second ahead. Otherwise he will lose that position out to Killer. 30 seconds remains to get the last laps done. There'll be enough time to see these two at least cross, Simo and Killer. Playing very cautious with that throttle. He's still got enough. He's got just 3 seconds over Killer, so he'll maintain that position. And then we have results for race 1. And Sami takes top of the podium in position 1. Well done to Sami. And then a 0 taking 2nd position and Gallen in 3rd. And the fastest lap looks like it was a 1:37. It is a 1:37.033. That's going to a 0, so 10 bonus points being awarded to a 0. So congratulations on the fastest lap. So then the rest of the field, We have Coco Dog in 4th, followed by T-Rex, Mitcliffe, D-Train, Philly Dirty, Pretzelnator, Simo Simsel, Killer, Steph, and Doggy Daddy. So well done to the rest of the field as well. So be sure to stay tuned. It's going to be exciting seeing these guys battle it out over the course of 23 laps. Plus there is a mandatory pit as well. So it will be key to ensuring a victory, and there's probably going to be plenty of incidents in this very narrow technical track. So do stay tuned. We'll be back in about 9 minutes, ready for session 2. welcome back for session 2 of round 4 of the Apex eSports League V8 Supercars Championship. We did just see Sami take victory in the first race for tonight after incident with Philly and Azuro getting taken out in the first corner and then having to claw their way back through. Azuro did climb back up into position 2, so it was a very good recovery. And Philly with a bit more of a damaged car, not recovering as strongly through those rungs. So weather conditions now have changed to overcast. Game session time is 1 PM. It's probably going to be a little bit slippery out there for a few laps. The drivers will need to play cautious on those first out laps. We do now have 15 cars. Rooney has made it for session 2. Rooney needing to be able to have a very strong result in race 2. Try and make up for the points lost out in the first race tonight. If you're joining us for our stream, you haven't done so yet, be sure to hit that follow button. Say hello in the chat. We welcome you all to our streams. And don't forget our social media links down below. So there's our Facebook page where all our results, standings and incident reports. And it will be an interesting one to review for the turn 1 incident in race 1 with Azuro and Philly. As they were racing very tight into that first corner. Be interesting just to see how a little bit of lag going on for Gallen. He just lag skipped across. A bit of sabotage on the track, recall saying. Try and slow Sami and Azuro down. I think these overcast conditions will definitely be doing it. It's going to be very slippery. The drivers were mentioning towards that end of the race it was very slippery. Those tyres were scrubbed right out. Their front left was taking quite the thrashing. As I was mentioning, our social media links down below. There's our YouTube as well, the bit.ly/ApexESL. That is to our YouTube channel. Our past broadcasts get saved over there, so you can go back through and check out any of the previous action going on with our series. We've been doing it for broadcasting for probably just over 12 months, so there's plenty of stuff to go and check out, plenty of different classes and some spectacular racing, and you'll just be able to see just how far a lot of our drivers have come in their development. So it's great to see when we have some drivers come on board and then they start towards down the back end, and then we start seeing them taking out championships. So it's spectacular to see how they progress over the course of their time with us. Philly's just off track at the moment. And we've had D-Train, he's had to bring that car in. D-Train's had his lap time validated as well, so he's run off track. If you're a member of our group, you can check out our Facebook page. You don't have to be a Facebook user to actually be able to see it. It is just set to public, so you can check back every now and then just to see our results and standings. And then our incident reports will be posted with those results as well, and any post-race penalties that may have been applied. D-Train's been disqualified. He's going to have to disconnect, so he's just obviously sped through the pits. D-Train's going to have to disconnect out of the lobby and come back in. Can't see him in the list. Zero's come through for 136. coming days we'll be reviewing the replay from race 1. We'll be checking out just to see who owned track position at the time of the incident between Zero and Philly. Philly did position himself enough and actually own that track position. It won't be a penalty, otherwise both drivers could actually share it if they were both having equal claim to the apex at the time. Whether if Zero was far enough forward in the line that he owned the track position, it would then be a penalty at the expense of Philly, so it will be a very interesting one to check out. Sami doing pretty well for 136.8 for his first time as well. Pretty similar pace to a Zero. So they're following through what we saw from race 1. Zero and Sami were doing some very similar pace throughout the entirety of the race. Rooney doing well with a 137, almost flat. D-Train has left the session and come back in yet or not. Timings, I'm just seeing. What else have we got in? Gallon also coming through for quick time, a 136.5. Tommy's being bumped down into 4th. Pretzel up there. Oh no, he's just brought that car in. He's come through for 137.2. T-Rex doing all for 138. The drivers are just discussing, we're just having a bit of, as D-Train's left the session, he's going to have time to be able to get back in. So he's probably just discussing, I can see a lot of chat going on between the guys. D-Train's trying to get back in. As long as he gets in within the last 5 minutes, he'll make the start of the race. Yeah, Weaver Rooney definitely is in there to stir things up. He's got very strong pace. He's had some bad luck in the last couple of rounds. And he did take some damage and then try to actually last out with that damage. I ended up seeing him lose many positions. Probably should have gone in and tended to that damage. You can see him trying to get some heat into these tyres. He's going to try and definitely steal a pole position lap. 135.5 is a Zero's quickest time. He has been improving just drastically. The lap before that was a 135.833. So he's shaved off 0.3 of a second. Sami's moved back up. He's only 0.3 off of a Zero's pole time. A little bit slippery for Sami. Spins out, makes wall contact. And here is D-Train. He's made it back in. So hopefully he remembers to hit that pit speed limiter as he heads out. Otherwise you'll be seeing another DQ. He'll miss the race start if he has to leave the session and come back in now. Zero's just brought that car back in as well. Rooney looking for the business now. He's gotten those tyres warm. Oh, a little bit off track. Bill has just ran off track as well. His lap time's just been currently invalidated. He's come through with a 136.4. It's 0.9 off pole time. It's very tight. Billy having quite taken the brunt of that incident in race 1. Effectively costing him being able to have a strong finish. We're getting a bit of a ghost car from that, I think it's Simo just up ahead. We also had Philly get rolled in the spin-off last week as well. Struggling with the car at the moment, but it is going to be slippery out there for a few laps. these overcast conditions, it's going to be rather cool. I think it was Rooney that was just off track as well, so that wasn't a very good lap for him. Ooh, narrowly avoids that wall as well. Oh, and big slide. That's a huge hit. He's going to have time at least to be able to get the car back out. He's going to just continue on. He's probably best to bring that car into the pits. Is that up ahead if that's Doggy? That is Doggy's car. Sami gets around. D-Train looking to get a time on the board. Pushing that car a fair bit to try and get some extra heat into those tyres. Marini's just brought the car in, he just vanished in the distance behind. Killer needing to get a time on the board. A little bit slippery. Tail drifted out just a smidgen. Well, that is Steph, I think that's just been turned around. Don't know if she's taken damage. If she hasn't taken damage, she should just stay out there and keep going. There's Coco Dog coming in quite broad on the final corner. You can see them sliding that car through. I think that was Gallen that just came around as well. That was, and that lap just moved him up into third position. That's a very good time. 136.2. Zero and Sami, only one's in for 135. We are seeing about a second slower than the qualifying in session 1. That's great recall. So for those that can't see the chat while watching the stream, I'm saying word from the pits that due to being vertically challenged, D-Train was able to slip back in undetected. So he does tend to get the short of the jokes, and then that is a good probably pun as well. So he's apparently only a short fella. There's nothing wrong with that. I am also rather vertically challenged. I'm only a very short person as well. Yeah, big and hard, that's right. Gallen still in with third quickest time. Rooney really looking to try and bump that time up a bit more. After really trying to work, I think he's still running oh no, he did actually bring that car back in, so he should be out there with a fresh car. But those tyres are going to be rather cold. Simo's just exceeded track limits. I'll jump on board for a lap with someone in a moment as well. Showing the delegates to see who we can find that's be close to wrapping up a lap. A little bit slippery there for Mick. Right into those chicanes. Not sure if that damages from before. A very big slide in and behind there. Coming up to the last section of the track. We might jump on for a lap with Mick Cliff. I know he won't know if he's going to be bringing that car in. I know he's just allowing, I think he's letting the Zero through. So Zero's probably on for a good lap. Drivers usually pretty courteous and let each other know when they're on for a good lap. And he did just improve that lap, so he was in for a quick one, 135.1. Very nice corner for the first turn. Remember, Mick is doing this from a controller as well. Ooh, a little bit of, I think that's a bit of lag going on. Very good control. Running quite a heavy fuel load for the car. 44 litres in it at the moment. Out into the hairpin. Here we got right up on that curb, that's where it gets quite slippery. And these curbs are quite dangerous, they are gutted curbs. Of course, being European track, very flat. It will be prone to pooling with rain. Getting out and using those curves is quite bad. And that section of green paint off to the side there is quite slippery. You can get out wide onto it. Down towards the back end of last sector. Oh, he's just run that off wide. He goes off for a spin, cuts the corner. Is he going to finish the lap for us? No, he's going to pull that over and brought it into the pits. Close to a full lap on board. There's 10 seconds remaining. Gallen's making use of that time to do a burnout for us. Oh, Rooney, big slide. That's unfortunate for him, so he's qualifying complete. Azura has pole, 135.1. Sami with a 135.9. A little bit of slip going on for Philly. That car is running quite a light load of fuel. This is coming up behind Killer. Killer's going into the pits. Can Philly improve this time? No, it mustn't have been a very good lap for him. He's slowing that up. Coco Dog just spinning off as well. D-Train should have time to be able to finish this lap up. So he hasn't had as much time out there in this session as the others, as he did get the DQ for speeding in the pits. Hopefully he goes on for a cracker on this lap and can move up the line a little bit more. 0.7 of a second off T-Rex's time. If he can manage to get around that, he'll also get ahead of Coco Dog. So both Coco Dog and T-Rex are in with 137.2s. They are very close, only 0.002 difference between those two. Mustn't have been a very good lap for D-Train if he's taking the time to slide it across the finish. He wasn't impressed with that lap. This would probably be it. I can still hear Gallen doing a burnout, and then Dirty crosses the line, doesn't improve. There's Gallen in the road. He must have come back out of the other side of the pits to be able to be doing that, as he's not crossed the line. So once the car crosses the line, it would actually... AI takes over the car. It's quite a good smoke show. Coco also playing out there. There we have it. The pre-race entertainment courtesy of Gallen as usual. And Azura takes another pole position. Starting from position 2 this time is Sami. So we did see Philly up there in position 2 for race 1. So he's starting from the position 5 this time, so maybe a little bit different as they dart up through the front, especially with Azura and Sami both showing some very quick pace. So we have Sami starting from position 2, then followed by Gallen, Rooney, Philly, Pretzel, Coco Dog, T-Rex, D-Train, Mick Cliff, Dirty Monkey, Simo Simsel, Killer. Oh no, Killer's got 2 grid places, so he drops down, start from 15th, so that means Steph moves up, and so does Doggy Daddy. So I did not notice that as he was going in those. He must have copped that quite towards the end, so unfortunate there for Killer. Now ready to head over for 22 laps around Hockenheim. Just being one shy off a full grid this time. It'll be some spectacular racing around the very narrow technical Hockenheim. That's right, Nightmare. They are all doing great. There's some great times out there. And they were all discussing with the incident that happened in race 1 at the start, how they all actually managed to be able to navigate around it and get through it without it turning into a big cluster accident. So it could have potentially gone quite bad. We've got Gallen starting in behind Azura. Rooney starting in behind Sami. And that should be Philly starting behind Gallen. Billy did get away to a very quick start in race 1, so you could potentially see him looking to dart up around Gallen. He gets another very quick start. Zero did get a very quick launch in race 1. Turn 1 is going to be quite chaotic. There's not a lot of room. You really have to try and fall in and get that track position. They can't afford to go for a spin like we saw in race 1. T-Rex jumping in on the stream and playing some sound effects for the race that is about to start. Oh, we've just seen someone move. That'll be a jump start. I think that's Steph. They rolled. So it's a pretty good start to the race. Sami's gotten away very quick. Zero is starting to fall back. Oh, a little bit of lag going on. Hopefully it doesn't cause an incident. There was a couple of skips between Zero and Sami. Much better start to the race compared to the first time tonight. Pretty tidy going through the rest of it. I'm not sure what happened down the back with Steph. I'm pretty sure she did roll at the start. If we see her peel off into the pits, she could be serving a drive-through penalty. Look at Sami, he's really pulling ahead, and Rooney just starts up along the outside of Zero. I don't think he's going to have enough track position. He could try and pull a switch back, but not going to. Philly has just moved up. It's tucked in behind a Gallen. The Rooney really covered some good ground. Oh, and there he's just tapped a Zero and turned him around in front of Gallen and Phillies. They've both been hit. Rooney did position himself a little too far in. It was a dive bomb into that corner. Zero and Philly not having much luck, but no, Philly did manage to skate through pretty well. Coco Dog's just spun out. Oh, and he's just made contact. I think that is with Mick Cliff and also Killer. So they did just try and avoid Coco and then just made some contact. Doggy Daddy now moves up into 14th position. Oh, he's just run off wide. Coco Dog struggling with that car. He's just gone off again. Chaos going everywhere on lap 1 at the back end. That's a big hit. I think Pretzel just shunted Philly pretty hard, but he's managed to recover pretty well. That was a big launch. It's a bit of a bender out there at the moment. Coco Dog's now gone into the pits. The D-Train is now up into position 2. Sami is leading by 6.3 seconds. T-Rex is in 3rd. Billy, despite that huge shunt, and Pretzel as well, both still sitting in those same positions. I wonder if there was potentially a bit of lag going on with that, as Philly seemed to have gotten back on track reasonably okay. He definitely should have gone out into a spin, and he's a few little frame skips there as well, so could have potentially been a lag incident. Oh no, D-Train has just spun out, so T-Rex has moved up. Philly is now in 3rd position. The track temperatures are going to be playing a fair bit to these guys as well. The in-game session time started at 2 PM, and the weather conditions, when I can get my words out of my mouth nice and clearly, it is overcast and it will stay quite cool, as it will only progress into heavy cloud by the end of the race, and that could occur at any time as well. It is set to sync, so it doesn't mean it is evenly spaced, so it doesn't determine that halfway through the race it'll change progression. So it could be only overcast for a few laps, or it could even stay overcast for the majority of the race. We will not know, so it leaves that randomness to it. But Sami is doing well out there with 137.3. Zero recovering some ground very well again. He's now moving back up into 5th position. So not letting incidents bother him at all. And Rooney in 8th position. Gallen also in 7th. Having to have actually fared pretty well in the long run. A little bit of slip going on, I think. Killer just misjudged that hairpin. Cliff is currently in 11th position, so he did take a scrape when he was trying to get around Coco Dog. Nice inside pass from Cliff getting around Killer. Billy closing in on T-Rex. Very wide line taken by Philly. Bit of correction, so there's a bit of oversteer on the corner exit. He's lost a bit of ground. There's a few little lag skips going on for him as well. So I think that may have played part with that shunt between him and Pretzel. Zero closing in on Philly now. Last lap around, Zero was 2.4 seconds quicker than Philly, so at this pace we'll be looking to get past in the next lap. Zero's in a much better position for his recovery as he was compared to race 1. He'd get up to about, I think it was 8 to 9 seconds behind Sami. Oh, I don't know if it's lag going on for Sami's car. See a lot of corrections going on my screen. Not sure if it's showing on the broadcast. As it is ran off a different console. Yeah, it's definitely some lag showing for this. And that could very well be part of cause to the incident at the start of race 1 as well. Because once these drivers start racing incredibly close, the latency difference are travelling at those speeds at that close proximity, it only takes a few milliseconds of latency difference, and that could mean you are actually making contact with the car in front and you won't even be seeing that. Zero gets around Philly. Oh, Pretzel's just gone into the pits and he's just copped a speeding penalty as well. A full 10 seconds, so he went in probably about 70 k's into the 60k zone. That'll be applied at the end of his race. T-Rex is currently trailing by 12.2 seconds behind our race leader Sami. Sami to try and regain some ground on the championship. He's going to have to try and finish well ahead of a Zero. A 1-2 finish won't be enough for him to be able to steal that lead away. A Zero will still maintain that championship lead. Bit of correction there for Philly. Very different lines by all the drivers on that hairpin. That is probably the trickiest corner for all of them. That's the biggest potential to try and cover some ground over your opponents. They can nail that section. You'd expect it probably be the most risky spot for the opening laps. The incidents were pretty much cleared the track of cars by the time they got to that section. Sami now leading by 13 seconds. Zero struggling to close that gap in on T-Rex. So Zero's last lap was 140. T-Rex was much quicker. But that lap just set then was 137 and T-Rex was a 139.7. However, Sami was the quickest out there for the last lap at 137.146. I think that would be the fastest lap of the race. That is 137.146. Next is 137.260, and that's set by a Zero. T-Rex may be in for some trouble. Lock up for T-Rex. It's going to cost him a position. He's just ran off. Oh, but he's got away pretty quick, so he's looking to get up alongside of a Zero. It's not enough to cover that ground, but he's tucked back in pretty well tight, considering he did just run wide. T-Rex just locks that back left, costing him some time. He's going to have to try and really push some ground and keep that distance away from a Zero. He's going to have to start considering what he's going to do in his pit strategy as well. It's going to play part in ensuring he can have a victory. It's most likely the drivers will definitely be pitting around the halfway mark. Not sure if they'll opt out for some hards, if they'll do 2 sets of soft tyres, as we found the drivers by lap 9 and 10. Philly's just gone into the pits. Not sure what's happening for Philly, whether he's tending to some damage or he's just deciding to pit in quite early. Could potentially be a strategy. He's been in and opting out for some hard tyres that could probably last out the remainder. He could definitely recover some positions by managing to stay out on track for the remaining 15 laps. Ooh, Sami just go off. He did. He just started to go off wide on that corner. He didn't lose too much. He only lost about 3 seconds. And it really runs wide again, but I think that is a little bit of lag showing for him. T-Rex now fallen about 5 seconds behind a Zero. 6 seconds behind T-Rex is D-Train. There's a bit of debris on the track. The drivers have to be cautious around that bend. You can see a fair few glistening spots on track. Pretzelmator is starting to close in on Killer, looking to take away 10th position from him. See debris scattered out on track. We saw Sami go off, come back on track, so he's brought a fair bit of kitty litter with him. Takes out that cone as he cuts that corner. It just looks like I think Doggy Daddy has just been passed. Zero is now closing in on Doggy Daddy, so we'll have to try and get around him nice and clean. This is where we start to see the cars start to get a little bit flighty in race 1. The softs were well scrubbed. Lap time started to drop off to the 140 marks, where we're seeing 137s and 138s for most of the course of the race. Let us know in the chat if you think a Zero will close in on Sami and manage to get past, or will Sami be able to hold it off out in front. As long as he does sort his pit strategy out, he should be fine. I think someone had just spun out as well. Pretzel has gotten past Killer. Looks like Killer may have gone off. Not sure who's just gone past. I think that is Philly. That's just gone past. Philly has just gotten past Doggy Daddy and Steph. I think that's a Zero up alongside of him, possibly. It is. Trying to get past the back marker who's got some pretty strong pace still. Just make it a little bit more tricky. Philly has pit as well, so he's got a good opportunity to be able to try and cover as much ground as he can now. If he can stay out there nice and clean. By being currently in 13th position. Oh no, a little bit slippery for him. His tyres could be cold since he's only just gotten out after the pits. An early pit stop could be a very good strategy for him. We have seen Sami stay out on track a little bit too long, sometimes really trying to push the tyres. They're coming in just that a little bit earlier, potentially could have saved him some time on each of those laps. His pace is a little bit slower than Azuro's at the moment. That lap was a 139.2, the last lap was 138. Azuro is setting 137.5. But that lap there was a little bit slower, but he did have to get around some traffic. Sami having gotten around a bit smoother. Azuro still feeling some pressure there from Philly. Philly is now a lap down. That could be beneficial to Sami to try and push that ground away while Azuro will be a little bit occupied seeing a car in the mirror. D-Train doing pretty well in third position. T-Rex has dropped back a little bit. He's showing a bit of damage to that car. Gallon has now pitted as well. At least we're actually seeing the uniforms of the pit crew. Usually they are all, look like they're all censored out. Azuro still not getting rid of Philly. Philly's probably going to be able to sit in and enjoy a slipstream from Azuro. If he can keep that pace and having pit will be a very strong advantage for him. He's over. Oh, Azuro locked that wheel, and it was a fair bit of debris on tracks that could have potentially gone into a slide. Azuro opting to pit in, yeah, so there's definitely some slip. He's still out on track. You're going to have to really put down for this lap a very quick time. If he stays out too long, he's going to have Azuro out on some fresh tyres. He's going to be doing some bigger. That was a bit risky for Sami. Those tyres have definitely got to be slippery for him. Staying out for too long is potentially going to be damaging to him. He could end up being involved in an incident, or he's going to really lose out on those lap times while those tyres aren't up to scratch. Especially when the guys get out on some fresh rubber, they'll be putting down some very quick times in comparison to Sami. He should really pit this lap. T-Rex has moved up into position 2. Rennie recovered back up into position 3. Even Mick has done a brilliant recovery, moved up into position 4. So Azuro has now served his mandatory pit and come out in position 5. Betty Monkey currently in 6. D-Train just exiting the pits now. And old betting on T-Rex for the mountain, yes, coming into the final round. It is usually the forte of most drivers. It's going to be a brilliant battle for the final race. And it will definitely be the decider, I am for sure. Dog, it's on alright, recovered back into 9th position. Yes, Sami's just heading into the pits now. T-Rex will shoot past us 20 seconds before he catches up to Sami. And he does need to pit himself. Sami could be in and out very quick as long as things don't go wrong for him with the pit stop. Bring up the map. It's coming onto the last corner now. There's the pit entry. Will T-Rex do the same? Yes, so there is Rooney following behind. Rooney also pitting. Sami is out and away. All he has to do is just stay out there now. He's got to remember those tyres are going to be a little cool. It looks like the sun's come out a little bit. The overcast conditions have changed. Track temperature is going to start to go up. And we're even picking D-Train for the mountain. D-Train is very good at the mountain. He did win our Bathurst Challenge last year. Dominated in all the Bathurst events. Metcalfe a couple of seconds ahead of Azuro. I don't think Mick has pit though. He will need to head in. Oh, that definitely looks like he hasn't pit. That was a bit of a slide. He's definitely struggling with those tyres. He'll probably peel in very soon. It's pretty good, Sami and Azuro having pit. And he's got a difference of 20.5 seconds. And we're halfway through. As long as no mistakes are made by Sami and he can keep this pace, he should be pretty set. That's worth the big points. Not sure what was going on for Sami, whether he's coasting or if that's some lag going on. Victory here is 120 points. The second position is 108 points. That's the 12 points difference that they currently went into round 4 with between Sami and Azuro. Sami can potentially even get the fastest lap. Azuro's come through for 136.955. It's going to be pretty tough to try and beat. Sure at this rate will probably be Sami taking the top of the podium, followed by Azuro, and that means they would go into the final round very close on points. The mountain will decide who becomes the series champion. No pit errors aren't on either. It'll also just depend in the pit stops as to which end of the finish line that their bay is actually at as well. You could see a shorter pit entry lap compared to their pit exit. D-Train flicks out around, I think that is Dirty Monkey, so he takes third position away. Rooney needs 2 laps around Bathurst and you'll smash him in 2 laps. You'll be done for sure. Oh, Sami back into the pits again. Not sure what's going on. Perhaps he had a jump start that he had the 10-2. This is going to cost him victory. Maybe they didn't change the tyres. That's Steph that's also in the pits just ahead of him. Not sure if Sami did stop. Azuro's going to take race lead now. It's a very quick stop. Sure what was going on there. Azuro takes the lead of the race. It's lap 14. That's just cost Sami. Sure what's going on for Sami. Second pit stop was definitely not needed. Potentially a pit problem for Sami. If they didn't change his tyres the first time around, he would definitely not be able to last out, and he did seem to be skating a little bit. It seemed like he was contending with cold tyres, but perhaps he was actually dealing with bald tyres. Still a little bit slippery for Sami. Not having much luck on the back end of this race. D-Train now starting to close in that gap. He's about 10 seconds behind Sami. Azuro's really pulled ahead now. He's leading the race by 14 seconds. And that is where Azuro becomes very dangerous out front. He starts laying down some very quick times. He's just set at 136.8. T-Rex starting to close in on Dirty. Dirty seems to be losing a bit of pace. I'm not sure. Ooh, a bit of a lock-up by both of them on approach into the corner. Having a few frame skips as well. They'll have to be cautious. Well, if T-Rex considers a pass. Dirty looks like he's just heading off into the pits now. Just seen a bit of a lag skip. Looks like someone may have almost disconnected. Currently just joining us for the stream as well, and you haven't hit that follow button, be sure to give that follow button a click. Appreciate the support for growing Apex Esports League and the sport for all our drivers. We are seeing a lot of red numbers up on the position board. So that is when drivers take a time second penalty. It's not sure if that's speeding in pits or if they are cutting corners. Looks like cutting corners. Pretzonator has taken a 10-second penalty for speeding in pits, however. Gallen doing well up in 5th position and closing in on T-Rex as well. Still seeing a few lag skips from T-Rex. Pretzel just oversteering coming out of the hairpin. He was starting to close in on Mickcliffe, but he's just lost that ground that he had started to make up. Gallen quickly closing in on T-Rex. Gallen has also pit. They are racing for this position here. They're not going to see each other peel off into the pits unless they're having the same problems as what Sami may potentially have had. And for those that aren't aware, we are going to be jumping over and briefly interviewing our position 1 and 2 from this race at the end of the results tonight. So you will be able to hear it from the drivers, just what went on. So if it is a 0 and Sami, you'll be able to hear just what went on for Sami with that second pit stop. There's a lot of debris on that corner. And it's where we're seeing a lot of drivers locking up that rear left. T-Rex moves off onto a very inside line on corner exit. Not sure if he was oversteering on exit or if that was just to try and break potential stream going onto the straight for Gallen. Gallen is showing some very quick pace. He's a good 1.1 seconds quicker last lap than what T-Rex was. Potentially trying to get around. So T-Rex has started to pull away. T-Rex being much quicker through sector 3 than Gallen, but Gallen did get a good run on to pit straight. See him engaging him here. Gets up along inside of him. He's going to have to be shaving off a lot more speed coming down into the hairpin. There could be a switch back by T-Rex. Going to be cautious just with his track position where T-Rex currently is. They're both giving each other a lot of room. They're side by side still. T-Rex isn't giving it up without a fight. He's tucked back in. Gallen gets just up ahead of him to own that corner. T-Rex still closing in. That is close. There's nearly a nudge coming into the hairpin. Gallen pulls away much quicker than T-Rex. And a 0. Our championship leader is now leading the race by 21.3 seconds. It's lap 18 of 22. 4 laps remain. Army having lost that race lead by having to head back into the pits a second time. He did seem to get a very quick release the first time he went in the pits, so potentially not having tyres changed. D-Train 7 seconds behind, a 0. He's not out of it yet, he could potentially close in on him. D-Train is doing some quick laps in a 0 at the moment. Almost 1.5 seconds quicker. He could close that in over the course of the remaining laps. T-Rex closing that gap in. Again, there's very differences in sector times between these two. When they start to close that gap, they start to pull away in the other sectors. Give the commentators curse, yeah. Jeffrey jump on board with someone. Lucky we didn't give it to Gallen. Managed to see a beautiful pass being done so. Usually we perfectly time it for a nice spin. It looks like they're catching up to Steph, I think, is just coming up ahead. Rooney quietly plugging away behind Gallen and T-Rex. Currently in 6th position. Only 3 seconds behind these guys. And his last lap was 5 seconds quicker than Gallen and T-Rex's time. They're only currently sitting 2 seconds behind these guys. He's probably going to be battling out with them in the last laps. 0 starting to come up to some back markers. Not sure if that's Pretzel or Simo's car. It must be Pretzel's car. Yeah, that is Pretzel, so that is 0 just getting around there. Pretzel holding a lot of speed. Stays out very wide for him in the hairpin. A 0 didn't get through very quick. Pretzel a lot quicker by holding that much further outside line in the hairpin. Him tuck right back in behind a 0. Giving him some good pace. Locks that back left. That just cost him a fair bit of time. Good Rooney's just got up to these guys now, especially now they just got held up a little bit getting around Steph. Steph showing a fair bit of visual damage. Closing in on these guys. Gallen spaced out around T-Rex, but T-Rex very late brake. Oh, very slippery coming out of the hairpin. That's cost him a bit of time. That's going to allow Rooney to catch up. Tommy's dropped a position. D-Train moves up into 2nd. Few lag skips being visible on Sami's car. Bit of fatigue would be setting in for the drivers as well. And Sami should be having some pretty good grip on the tyres for the last couple of laps, with having to have that second pit if that was the case of not having the tyres changed the first time around. So his tyres are going to be much more fresher than the guys that have already pit. So we're now on lap 20. Gallen, T-Rex and Rooney sitting in very tight down pit straight. Rooney showing some immense pace down through turn 1 and 2. Got a very light fuel load. We're getting down to qualifying fuel loads. T-Rex is a little bit heavier than Rooney. Rooney's going to be enjoying a very nice slipstream from these two. Rooney gets up along inside of T-Rex and then he locks it. He does get through though. He did just get in front of T-Rex but then had to drop out. Steph just spun out in the hairpin in the background. Rooney didn't be able to follow through with that pace. Little mistake by T-Rex. Rooney also follows the same line. A bit of object fixation does tend to happen When you're racing in close proximity and you really focus on the car ahead, you can tend to exactly follow their line. And if they run wide, you tend to see they follow suit. That's Doggy Daddy just moving out of the way for Sami, but then he spins on the last turn. Almost having a trip down into the pits for the third time. That would have been devastating if he had gone too far in, especially if he was in a spin and speeding. It would have been an instant DQ for him. We have seen it happen where cars have spun out at the last corner and actually dove into the pit lane in excessive speed, and that will disqualify. Oh, I think that's Philly. It's just gone for a slide. He's just lost out several positions. It's lap 21. Zero's leading by 33.5 seconds. D-Train did still have Sami pretty close for a while, with a few errors from Sami. Has lost him a bit of ground from D-Train. Gallon, T-Rex and Rooney all still trying to battle it out. Rooney's taken a time second penalty as well. He's wearing 1 second. So if he does get around any of these guys, he's going to have to put down an extra 1 second gap on them. Otherwise, he'll just relinquish that position back. He hasn't quite brought that gap in between him and D-Train yet again. Run the final lap. Championship leader Zero. That's not the clean sweep that Jeffries was predicting before. He was correct with the prediction last week. They could potentially almost have it at least in session 2. I think he's got the fastest lap. A 1:36.5 is his fastest lap, and I'm pretty sure it's the quickest out there. Pole and a victory for race 2. Only missing out on a full clean sweep by not getting the race victory in race 1. Jeffries, Zero's your hero. Jeffries giving lots of support for a Zero. He's had a brilliant drive after being caught up in incident, and still managing to recover is pretty good. Ooh, a few lag skips would be devastating if he is to disconnect out now. Here he is, coming up to cross the line and flash the lights. Top of the podium, well done, congratulations to Zero. D-Train bring up in second position. Sami's not close enough to be able to contest him on the final straight. Oh no, they're a little ways away, so they're only coming towards the back end of that sector. I don't think it's enough for Sami to try and come in unless D-Train makes a significant error. Very cautious final corner for D-Train. Brings it up in position 2. Congratulations. Some bad luck for Sami, seeing him drop down into position 3. Still on the podium. There's Gallant following up in 4th position. Rooney may lose out of position to T-Rex here. Yes, he does. T-Rex moves up into 5th. Rooney drops into 6th by way of the time second penalty. Coming up in 7th position. There's 50 seconds remaining to get the final laps done. Should see a couple of cars to cross the line. Some weird sector, gap times up on the board. So well done, Nick Cliff. Oh, he moves up into 6th position ahead of Rooney. So Rooney Rooney was wearing 58 second time second penalty, so that's quite interesting. Not sure what happened for Rooney to cop 58 seconds in the end. It must have been some significant speeding in pits. So once it reaches 60 seconds, I'm pretty sure it's a disqualification. So narrowly avoiding that. So there we have the conclusion of round 4. Zero takes top of the podium and also the quickest lap, a 1:36.515, so well done, Zero. Also on the podium is D-Train and Sami, and then the rest of the field is Gallen, T-Rex, Mickcliff, Coco Dog, Rooney, Dirty Monkey, Pretzelnator, Philly, Manili, Simo Zimsel, Killer, Doggy Daddy, and Steph991. So well done there, and plenty of time-second penalties being applied through there. So the 10-second ones is usually speeding in the pits, and the usually 1 or 2 second ones are only just for cutting corners and not abiding by the slowdown. So we'll be getting a Zero and D-Train into the stream now, so add them in. They should load in momentarily, and then we'll be able to have a chat with them just as to how things went for the race and the round. As soon as I can find D-Train, they should be joining us in just a moment. Get notification they'll be joining very shortly. Zero has joined us, so probably take a moment just for his mic to work, and D-Train as well. So congratulations to Zero, brilliant recovery. So
yeah.
Followed suit from race 1, managing to be spun out down towards the back, but then recover back up into the first spot.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but when you got to make the best out of a bad day, and couldn't have done any better after that. So.
Well done. It was great times and some very quick laps as well. A 1:36.5 in race 2, so it was very quick.
Yep, it was. I knew we weren't going to be doing 34s, but I honestly thought it was going to be slower race pace. But I'm happy with 36s.
Yeah, well done. And D-Train, brilliant drive, managing to get up into position 2.
Yeah, I don't think it was my good driving. I think it was everyone else's bad luck, to be honest.
Yeah, so Sami having to have a second pit ended up costing him the race lead, and then effectively also making a couple of mistakes, seeing you being able to get around and put some gaps over D-Train. Sorry, I'm Sami, so well done on that as well.
He's Mr. Consistent D-Train here.
Well, that's it. I seen the time slowly reeling in with Sami, and when he had that half lose, I thought, beauty, I'm in here.
Yeah, he had the Monza curse again, the drive-through.
That's what he was doing, yes, so yep. To serve that. Very unfortunate. Congratulations, guys, and then so it's going to be a pretty good lead heading into the final round for Bathurst. So everyone in the chat is actually putting it down for you two guys to put down a pretty good show at the mountain.
Oh,
looking forward to it.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, pressure's on.
Favourite track.
Yep. All right, guys.
Cheers, thanks, JT.
Shortly.
Thanks, JT.
And then we have the conclusion for round 4. So, of course, the final round of the series is next week, and that is a different race format. So we just have the final race. We don't have the 2 sessions, so it's a much longer race. There's going to be plenty of action, and of course, it's at Bathurst Mount Panorama. So be sure to hit that follow button if you haven't done so. You will be notified when we go live, so it'll be starting 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time next Thursday night for the finale. And of course, if you are interested in some more V8 Supercar action, we do have our iRacing series on Monday nights. If you want to get involved in any of our races, be sure to check out our Facebook page. There's all the details. You can get involved in iRacing or on our PS4 events. Be happy to have any extra drivers come on board with us. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we see you trackside next week.